The subject of imperfection is most commonly associated with negative connotations, being deemed incomplete or flawed in some way, and yet imperfection is entirely subjective, so who decides what is and is not seen as imperfect? The conflict of imperfection is created early in life, the idea that in order to learn or grow as individuals we must make mistakes, thus creating a sense of positivity and encouragement around imperfections. However, the illusion of perfection must be maintained, and therefore mistakes cannot be made or else we are visibly flawed. The definition varies so much from person to person, it is almost impossible to define exactly what perfection is, and despite nobody really knowing, everyone seems to strive so strongly for such an undetermined goal. So why do we feel the need to uphold this constant illusion of perfection when we know we will never be seen the same way by more than one person? Why are we so quick to pick apart ourselves and others if we feel imperfections are present? Why do we struggle to embrace imperfection when we know it's such a universal experience? I am a perfectionist, I always have been, and probably I think I always will be. The idea of imperfection is an intriguing one to me. I wanted to cover both the subject and processes that allow me to explore imperfection in order to better inform my practice and myself as a person. I've always been interested in work or people with unique qualities which begs the question of why am I so terrified of making or doing things that visually I love the look of? I can struggle starting projects out of fear that I don't know the best way to approach it. Then once I've got going, I tend to keep exploring until I feel it's perfect, which I almost never do. By allowing myself to explore the theme of imperfection through methods which give leeway for potential marks or mistakes, I gave myself permission to create work similar to that which I have always been drawn to. Ben Tallon states, too much control can lead to frustration, but playful experimentation can unlock results. This is something which I can relate to from my own personal practice and a fear of not getting things perfect. I love the idea that practitioners can become obsessed with the mistake and the beauty and originality that these imperfections can create. I am drawn to the works of Chris Ashworth, Susanna Licco and many others because of the balance they present within their designs. They bring to the table a structured mess which displays equally imperfection with structured organisation. There are constant playful elements to their work which allow for this equilibrium to be brought to light and, for me personally, help to enhance their outcomes. I've heard the phrase perfectly imperfect a lot over my lifetime, the idea that despite something or someone's flaws or scars they are perfect to you. Yet I can't help but wonder if sometimes it should be the other way round, imperfectly perfect. I think that seems a more celebratory way of saying how unique someone is, and after all, our imperfections are what make us exactly who we are. Imperfection occurs naturally over time. Be it aging or weathering, we all experience its ever-changing effects. The most human thing we can possibly do is age, and yet for most people it seems to be a terrifying thing. I began looking into typography and signage around me that had experienced this process. This drew together my interests in photography, Ashworth's work, and also a development into Jeremy Wagner's patination paintings. From this developed experimentation with letterpress prints, varying in pressure to create the effect of multiple stages in their lives. Vernacular signage has always played a large role in my interest into this subject, and was something I intended to explore further. I enjoy the way in which handmade signs, such as those of the Atelier Populaire movement, can and have been made by ordinary people. Each sign is unique in its own way, the same as its maker, and each has its flaws, if you wish to view them as flaws, that is. In honour of patching or concealing imperfections, I researched into the use of tape and how I could incorporate it into my projects. I dived into the likes of Jim Lambie and Ben Kelly to explore how they utilise tape within their work. I decided to create my own typefaces to link my vernacular type research and tape forms to create tapeography. I started to use masking tape and then moved on to duct tape to create letter forms which I could then utilise. I photographed the forms and then left them to the side to see if they would evolve over the time. I was pleasantly surprised to discover that the duct tape did change over the period I had left it for, which made the project seem more worthwhile in a way. I felt that this allowed for the typeface to have a stronger connection to my research. I wanted to extend my practice further and took inspiration from the likes of Anthony Burrell and Barry Tullett. The typographic prints became the perfect way in which I could explore layering, imperfect type and screen printing. Burrell's prints, while characteristic on their own, were too clean, and I wanted to really dive into how I could elevate my own prints and print practice, which had become a large part of the way in which I now produce work. Looking at Chris Bigg and his fragmented text led me on to Vaughan Oliver and John Cage, and then to Weingart and El Lissitzky. Shapes, lines and irregular grids became a staple part of my process and print practice. Having the ability to experiment in this way was new to me and allowed me to create without worrying that the outcome wasn't completed or perfect. Throughout my time exploring analogue print methods, I became fascinated by the moments between prints and how process could become product. I wanted to celebrate their unique qualities and quirks and capture the messy moments that most tend to overlook when printing. I began documenting these moments, and I feel that looking for them and growing to have an appreciation for them has greatly improved my practice as a designer. I have always had a good eye for detail, but experimenting and talking to others has really made me appreciate how different everyone is and how one small thing you didn't see could make all the difference. Using these fragmented prints and the moments between them has probably been the most beneficial part of my journey in submission this year. I mentioned this several times in my Mapping Matters publication, that print has become a large part of who I see myself as a practitioner and the kinds of work I am interested in making. Imperfections play a huge part in our lives and have now played a huge role in my design practice. It was really interesting for me to explore this theme as someone who has often been afraid of making mistakes. Allowing myself to dive deeper into the mindset that nothing is ever really imperfect has drastically changed the way I view my work and the works of others. It has helped me to remind myself that all imperfections are subjective and that beauty and individuality can be found all around if we know where to look. The equilibrium I spoke of at the start of this video, I think, is probably one of the most important elements that has come to light for me while developing my practice and research. Having the ability to create or find playful elements while still producing or appreciating beautiful work is one of the most gratifying feelings I have learned over the course of this project. Aside from studying imperfections, I was lucky enough to be selected to be part of the degree show team, helping with creative concepts and imagery. Reflecting on the time I have had as part of this team has been incredibly beneficial, and I have had a great appreciation for everyone involved. Everyone has their own strengths to play by, and the team complements itself in this way. I'm really looking forward to seeing how the work unfolds and to continue to enjoy working as part of the team. I have always enjoyed working and collaborating with others. I tend to find this is the most beneficial to me as it helps to identify my strengths and appreciate knowing when to let someone else utilise theirs. Overall, I believe that utilising and exploring imperfections, no matter who defines them, has massively influenced my work and the way I will continue to create. Imperfection is necessary, imperfection is individuality, and I'm now happy to say that I'm perfectly imperfect.